Next statement is the number of electrons in one atom is 81. That is true because the atom, the term means that it is neutral. Okay, atom is neutral. That's why. So because it's an atom, the proton number is the same as the number of electrons. So that's why it's 81. The number of neutrons in one atom is 201. That's wrong because 201 minus 81 will give us the neutrons. And 20182 is an isotope. That's wrong because in an isotope, the proton number cannot change, only the mass changes, which is why that will be the answer. Okay. Next question is, what is the order of increasing energy of the listed
This is
orbital?
B. So the
Sorry?
answer for the one above is B,
The
right?
answer for the previous one should be B. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What is the order of increasing energy of the listed orbitals in atoms of titanium? All right, so they're all in 3 or 4. ठीक है. अच्छा, अब इसमें what you have to understand is that because we are talking about atoms of titanium, we have to see कि उसके अंदर ये सारे के सारे filled हैं या खाली हैं. Because when they're empty, 3D has higher energy than 4s, but if they're filled up, then uh, वो 3D has low energy and 4s has high energy. Okay. So if you Google titanium, apparently you just get a song. Okay. I'll just go to periodic table. So periodic table titanium is 22, which means it will have a D shell that is filled up as well as 4s. So after it is filled up, then that simply means that 3D is at a lower level and the other one is at a higher level. So that's why I think 4s इसका ऊपर होएगा और 3D उसका नीचे होएगा. So
सर
the
ये एक बार फिर
answer.
से रिपीट कर दें.
So here's the thing: when they're empty, the orbitals go like 3s, 3p, 4s, 3d. That is how they fill up. But once it fills up, this order switches. So in the atom of titanium, because they're filled up, I think it should be 3s, 3p, then 3d, then 4s, because 3d has 2 electrons and 4s has 2 electrons as well.
So does it have to be completely filled up, the D subshell, or just like any 1 or 2 electrons?
No. Any one electron bringing in there reduces, lowers the energy उसी तरह से.
ठीक है sir.
So when they're empty, it should be B, 3s, 3p, 4s, 3d. But when they're filled up, then 3d has lower energy. Next question is, which of the following ions contains 2 unpaired electrons? So we're looking for 2 unpaired electrons. जिसका मतलब है कि हमें कोई इस तरह का situation चाहिए. Okay, where you have 2 unpaired electrons. Let's see, magnesium will have the same configuration as a noble gas. So that can't be right. Zinc 2 plus is also 310, so that's also not correct. Potassium is also like noble gas, so not correct. Nickel 2 plus, periodic table dekhte hain. So nickel is 28. Okay, so when nickel is 28, तो उसके पास होगा starting at 20, I will get 4s2, sorry, 4s2, and then I'll get 3d6, right? No, wait a minute, 3d8, that's what I'll get. So I'm just keeping the argon wala, 2, 3d. I have nickel 2 plus, that means both of these go away. So 3d8 is something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, we have 2 unpaired ones. There you go. So this should be nickel 2 plus. And then they're saying copper 2 plus. Copper 2 plus would be copper is 29. वैसे तो मतलब नहीं होना चाहिए ऐसा. But so copper 2 plus भी तो यही करेगा. नहीं करेगा. Copper is 29, right? So copper 2 plus. So it has one unpaired one. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then there's the 4s2 one, जिसमें से एक इधर आ जाता है. And then you lose 2 electrons, so you're losing these 2. So you have one unpaired one. So that's copper. So it's going to be nickel 2. That is the answer because that has two unpaired ones. किस जमाने के क्वेश्चन है ये?
वो सर टेस्ट में आए थे
Paper looks really old. अच्छा, okay. An atom has okay, which diagram shows the electronic configuration of this atom in the lowest energy state. By the way, what is the charge on this particle?
On which particle?
This thing, an atom has 8 electrons, which diagram shows the electronic configuration. इसके ऊपर charge क्या है?
They're +2.
Why would it be positive?
I mean, sorry, I mean
They
negative.
clearly say it's an atom.
Yeah.
It will be 0. It's an
Okay.
atom. So 8 electron, what's the configuration? Obviously 1s2, 2s2, and 2p4. So that's the configuration. So it's going to be, so I think what it's technically testing is two things. One is the off-bar principle, that you start filling by the lowest available energy state. And the second one is the Hund's rule. Hund's rule says that they won't pair up unless they have to, right? So that's what they're testing here. So P goes up like that. So this you fill P. So baki to aapke samne hai. So it's going to be, you have done it right. Let's do question number 18. What is the electronic configuration of an element with a second ionization energy higher than that of each of its neighbors in the periodic table? Second ionization energy सबसे ज़्यादा है. What does that mean? That means removing the first electron is really easy, but removing the second one is not. When does that happen? So remember one thing, the configuration in P, or it goes like that. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. That is how it goes. Okay. Or 1, 2. This is usually the pattern that we see. Why is that? ये मैंने उल्टा बना दिया, sorry, my bad. Usually the pattern goes like this. This is the S के दो electrons, P का first electron remove करना आसान होता है, then P का third electron remove करना मुश्किल होता है, fourth आसान होता है because of the mutual repulsion. So here's how the pattern goes. So it's like a dragon. Second ionization energy higher than that of each of its neighbors in the periodic table. जिसका मतलब है कि उसका पहला इलेक्ट्रॉन रिमूव करना आसान था, but second वाला सबसे मुश्किल है. So why would that occur? This is the first ionization energy. तो second ionization energy उसकी ज्यादा होनी चाहिए. कैसे होगी? Where should this thing be? It can't be in group 1, because if it is in group 1, then the second ionization energy will be, it can be technically group 1 में, because second ionization energy will be the one in
Yes, sir. It'll be higher.
A, B, C, 3 है हमारे पास. If A is here, B is here, C is here, then B's second ionization energy is higher, but C's second ionization energy will be this, B's will be this, A will be this. Get it? Do you get it?
No, sir.
Sir.
दोबारा से देखो. Let's say this is ABC, right? Like that. When B loses an electron, B takes this position. A, when it loses an electron, takes this position. C takes this position. After they lose an electron, क्योंकि अब वो उनकी configuration एक step पीछे चली जाएगी ना?
Sir, can you explain again?
When any atom loses an electron, it takes the configuration of the one before it in the periodic table, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that means, let's say this is ABC. A, B, C. This is the configuration of ABC right now. They're consecutive ones. When ABC loses an electron, they all become positive charges. So this is the configuration of A plus 1. This is the configuration of B plus 1. And this is the configuration of C plus 1, right?
Okay, sir.
Does that make sense? In that case, B cannot be our answer, because B की second ionization energy ये बनती है जो कि C और A दोनों से नीचे है. लेकिन अगर हम ये कहें कि A is here, B is here, C is here. Now when they lose an electron, A comes here, B comes here, C comes here. And now you can see that this is the second ionization energy of B. तो इसका मतलब है B has to be either 3p1 or sorry p1, 3 होना जरूरी नहीं है. It has to be either p1 or it has to be p4. क्यों? क्योंकि अगर यहां पर भी होगा ना, लेट्स सपोज ए बी सी यहां पे भी होते हैं, तो एक स्टेप मूव करने के बाद, पीछे जाने के बाद बी फिर भी बढ़ जाएगा. इन अदर वर्ड्स, व्हाट इज द क्वेश्चन आस्किंग यू? क्वेश्चन इज सेइंग दैट B has one configuration that is like the second ionization energy is higher than that of its neighbors, which means the first ionization energy is lower than its neighbors. So that only happens if you have mutual pair repulsion. That is when the ionization energy is lower than its neighbors. So if the first one is lower than its neighbors, then the second one will be higher than its neighbors, क्योंकि वो इस hill के ऊपर होएगा. So we are looking for a paired up electron. ठीक है, या तो उसका सेकेंड वाले में पेयर हुए, ठीक है, यानी कि या वो P1 हो या वो P4 हो. तो yep, it's going to be B. Does that make sense? All right, now we are moving on to a few questions on the topic that we did yesterday.
Sir, one
Bonding
second,
and all
sir.
that.
One.
I'm sorry, your voice is breaking. I don't know if it's my internet or
Sir,
yours.
one more question.
Can you rotate it? Wait a minute. What are the bond angles in the pH3 molecule likely to be? So pH3 is just like NH3. Why? Because phosphorus is same group as ammonia. So the bond angle is going to be like that. X bond structure molecule is going to be like that. It will have 5 electrons in the last shell. So there's 4 electron dense regions here. So that is 109.5 minus 2.5 because of a lone pair. So that is 107 degrees. So that's the one that is most likely to be there. But because phosphorus is also very less electronegative compared to nitrogen, bond thoda sa angle isse bada hi hoga. So we can assume it to be the nearest option, which is C. Okay? So C is the nearest option. 109. We're going to do a few questions on intermolecular forces. Okay, this is a pretty simple question. Structure formula of water, methanol, and methoxymethane are given below. How many lone pairs of electrons are there around the oxygen atom in methoxymethane? So again, remember that oxygen has 6 electrons in the last shell. So there's going to be 2 lone pairs. So it is 2 lone pairs, okay? What is the angle of COC bond in methoxymethane? Again, this is no different from the bond structure of water, okay? And the angle, as we know in water, is, again, there are 4 EDRs, 4 electron dense regions. So that is 109.5 minus 2 times 2.5. So that is 104. That is our angle. This is our next question.
सर
Yeah.
ये मिथॉक्सी ये जो भी था इसका क्या होगा?
मिथॉक्सीमीथेन जो भी था नहीं, उसका नाम है मिथॉक्सीमीथेन.
इसका क्या बॉन्ड एंगल होगा?
Same, 104.
ठीक है सर.
All right. By using the letters A, B, or C, state the strongest intermolecular force present in each of the following. So while we know that between them, hydrogen bond is the strongest, and then permanent dipoles, and then temporary dipoles, अगर हम general comparison करें. But let's just see this. Ethanol, do we have hydrogen bonds there or not? Or what bonds do we have? So उसके लिए आपको ये देखना है कि ethanol जो है, उसका structure क्या होगा. So ethanol has this thing. Does it have hydrogen in a hydrogen bonding? What do you think?
यस सर है.
क्यों?
कार्बन के साथ.
नहीं, हाइड्रोजन बॉन्डिंग कार्बन के साथ कैसे हो सकती है? What do we need for hydrogen bond? Hydrogen bond needs 2 things. It needs hydrogen in a polar bond and needs a lone pair on the other atom. Now, the problem is that hydrogen is not in a very strong polar bond here. There is dipole, delta negative, delta positive, but वो hydrogen पे इतना translate नहीं होता. Secondly, carbon does not have any lone pair, so there is no hydrogen bond present, which means it still has polar bond, so it's going to be permanent dipoles that we have here.
Sir, how does it
Get it?
How do we know the structure of ethanol? Like, I don't know how to draw this.
We don't know at the moment. We will study it later on. like in organic chemistry. That's why I gave you the structure.
Sir, but how do we know it's polar?
Oxygen, nitrogen, chlorine and fluorine, ये चार तो जब भी बॉन्ड्स बनाएंगी किसी और के साथ पोलर होगी, हमने पढ़ा हुआ है.
ठीक है.
Okay, ethanol. So I'll give you the structure again, although ये तो आपको आना चाहिए. Will this have hydrogen bonding?
Yes, sir.
Why?
सर इसमें ये पोलर भी है ऑक्सीजन की वजह से और इसमें लोन पेयर भी है.
Yes, so it is going to have hydrogen bond, and when hydrogen bond, that's the strongest kind of van der Waals force. Okay, methoxymethane. This is going to be like this. G, do you think it will have hydrogen bond?
Yes, sir.
कहाँ पे?
Sir, but the hydrogen isn't bonded to the oxygen.
Yeah, hydrogen, it doesn't have to be oxygen, but hydrogen has to be in a polar bond. It's not, as you can clearly see. So while we have a polar bond between carbon and oxygen, we don't have one between hydrogen and carbon. So इसकी वजह से there is no hydrogen bond here. But do you have permanent dipoles?
Yes.
Yeah, we do, because there are dipoles here, because oxygen carbon bond is polar. So that is the strongest bond that we have here. Next, we have methyl propane. This is methyl propane. Okay. Is there hydrogen bond?
No, sir.
Is there permanent dipole?
No, sir.
No. Yeah, because there's no polar bond. So that means we will only have B in this thing. Good. All right, let's try this. और ये क्वेश्चन इतनी दफा आता है, ये जो अभी हम क्वेश्चन करेंगे, लास्ट ईयर भी आया था ये. Which intermolecular force exists between methanol molecules and water molecules? जी बताएं. Which makes them soluble? He couldn't have been more obvious. He couldn't have given you any more hint. What makes water such a universal solvent? It being a polar molecule with so much hydrogen bonding. So it is hydrogen bond. Obviously आप उसको पूरा नाम देंगे hydrogen bonding. ठीक है, hydrogen bonding is the reason कि वो करता है. अच्छा, draw a diagram that clearly shows this intermolecular force, whatever you have. So obviously, what will we do? We want to show the force between methanol. Sorry. We want to show a force between methanol and water. That's what we want to show. So what will we do? We'll put, आपने एक ऑक्सीजन के साथ पानी का मॉलिक्यूल बनाना है with the dipole here, और एक आपने मेथनॉल बनाना है. So मेथनॉल आपके पास उसका भी बेंड स्ट्रक्चर होता है ऐसे, slightly negative, slightly positive charges. So here's how you show the dipole. Remember, label it. ठीक है, label it that this is hydrogen bond and must be directed between hydrogen and lone pair on oxygen. Okay, it's super important that you do that.
Yes.
Okay, next question. Name the force that has to be overcome in order to boil neon.
Sir, weak van der Waals forces.
You want to boil neon. What is the force that you want to overcome? Van der Waals forces. Is there another name for them?
London dispersion forces.
Specifically, which one van der Waals forces? London dispersion, और उसका एक और नाम भी होता है.
Instantaneous induced.
Induced dipole or temporary dipole. हमेशा उसके दो नाम लेने हैं, dipole, because you are talking about forces between two molecules. Each one has a dipole, so that's why we name it twice. Induced dipole, temporary dipole, interaction or attraction or forces. Acha, what causes these? Where do they come from? It is the uneven distribution of electrons. That's what causes this. Okay, next question. Why does argon have higher boiling point than neon? जी बताएं.
Sir, because argon has more electrons, so the electron cloud is more dense, so there's more
No, wait a minute.
dispersion.
Hold on. These are two different things. One is it has more electrons, and electron density is totally different. Electron density depends on two factors: the size and the electrons. So it's not the electron density that is more here, because वो बड़ा भी तो हो जाता है.
Ji, sir.
Yeah. So it has more electrons. That's true. Which leads to what? A stronger dipole. Okay. Or we can say there is higher polarization. Okay. So the reason is that you have more electrons in argon. So it's important that whenever you have a question about comparison, you mention clearly which thing has a higher number and all that. अब अगर बोल दो it has higher number तो उसका क्या पता लगेगा? This question is of I think 2 marks. ये 4 इसके पिछले parts की वजह से लिखा हुआ. Okay, so why melting and boiling point of water are much higher than those of H2S?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, I said that because water has hydrogen bonding and H2S doesn't.
Yes. So
And hydrogen bonding is the strongest intermolecular force.
but why does water have hydrogen bonding and H2S doesn't?
Because H2O has 2 lone pairs.
But so does H2S. दोनों में lone pairs हैं.
But oxygen is polar, so that's why.
Sir, are you speaking? Sir, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही.
I can't hear you. What are you saying?
No, sir, I'm saying I couldn't hear you.
Okay. So the reason that water has hydrogen bonding and H2S does not is because there is a greater difference in electronegativity between oxygen and hydrogen than the difference between sulfur and hydrogen, which leads to there being hydrogen bonding in water, which leads to it having stronger forces that need more energy to overcome and all that. So थोड़ा सा लंबा हो जाएगा. I don't think 3 lines is good enough for this. लेकिन ठीक है. Explain the meaning of the term electronegativity.
Ability to gain or lose 1 moles of electron.
That's not electronegativity.
Sir, is it the ability of an atom to pull the shared pair of electrons?
Yes, it is. Name and describe the type of bonding which you would expect to find between particles with equal electronegativity. So obviously, because they have equal electronegativity, will the bond be polar or non-polar?
Non-polar.
It will be non-polar, yes. और उसकी वजह से bonding कौन सी होगी? Non-polar में कौन सी bonding होती है?
Instantaneous.
Oh bhai, covalent bonding. Because we are not talking about one molecule and the other molecule. We are talking about 2 atoms with same electronegativity. That is the trick here. That you don't have electronegativity is something that an atom has, not the molecule.
Sir, I don't understand why we wouldn't say instantaneous induced dipole forces of attraction.
Really simple. So the instantaneous dipole will only exist if you're talking about noble gases. Why? Because electronegativity, it is a thing of atoms. Okay, but van der Waals forces are between molecules or free atoms. Okay? So when 2 particles, so this particle is not molecule, it is atom. So read it or interpret it as an atom. So name and describe the type of bonding you would expect between atom with equal electronegativities.
But But sir, you just wrote that van der Waals forces are also for free atoms.
Yeah, so it can apply for free atoms, but then again, वो यहाँ पर सिर्फ noble gases के केस में होगी. ठीक है? Or if you have gaseous state, only then will it apply. अगर वो individual atoms होंगे. But bonding is a universal thing; it can happen anywhere. So I think कि यहाँ पर हम directly, unless you mention noble gases and all that, हमारे पास जो bonding बनेगी वो होगी covalent. और वो कैसे बनेगी? Describe बोला है ना? So due to overlap between orbitals. Acha, name and describe the type of bonding you would expect to find between particles. Again, because you're talking about electronegativity, read it as atoms with very different electronegativities.
Sir, would it be ionic?
Yes, ionic. And why does ionic occur? Because there are electrostatic forces of attraction. या आप खाली attraction भी बोल सकते हो. Between what? Between oppositely charged ions.
Okay, sir.
इसका आंसर बड़ा मजे का है. Think about it.
Sir, is it because they both have London dispersion forces?
They both have London dispersion forces, but there's one more thing. Because their boiling points are roughly the same, this shows the strength of forces is the same. And why would that be? Even though one is a molecule and one is an atom. But if you look in the periodic table, fluorine and fluorine, they will both have a combined electrons of 9 plus 9, that is 18 electrons. And argon atom will also have 18 electrons. So they have the same number of electrons, which is why the strength of instantaneous dipole is also going to be the same. So obviously the amount of energy required is going to be roughly the same. And why is argon's 87 slightly higher and wo wala slightly less? That is because the molecular size. So we call them isoelectronic, that they have the same number of electrons.
सर तो हम इसकी रीजन ये लिखेंगे कि इनके सेम नंबर ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉन्स हैं इसलिए.
Yes. So they
तो
have
सर
same
वो
number of
तो
electrons. They're both
क्वेश्चन के
non-polar.
अकॉर्डिंग तो हाइड्रोजन क्लोराइड और मेथनॉल के भी इतने ही हैं. तो फिर तो सर इन दोनों का भी बॉइलिंग पॉइंट पास पास ही होना चाहिए था.
But that's a polar bond, which causes permanent dipoles, which makes permanent dipole forces are stronger.
Okay, sir.
But very good that you noticed. Okay, why does methanol have the highest of all these?
Because it has hydrogen bonding.
Sir,
Yeah,
as hydrogen bonding.
yeah, hydrogen bonding in methanol, that is the reason that it has the strongest force. And again, whenever you talk about hydrogen bonding, talk about the great difference in electronegativity of oxygen and hydrogen. Although यहाँ पर उसने ऐसे तो उसका पूछा नहीं है, तो आप सिर्फ identify कर सकते हो that the OH bond is polar and causes hydrogen bonding.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right, then that's it for today. Allah Hafiz.